What's up, y'all? Give me a second to get my earbuds figured out. And why did I just, there we go. All right, let me know if you guys can hear me. All right, you should be able to hear me. All right, give me a quick second. And my bad, I'm coming in a little late today. So anyway, we are live. Can you guys hear me? Let me know that you can hear me. Let me see here. Where's YouTube? YouTube. And okay, you guys can hear me? There we go. Hey, what's up, Fatima? What's up, Ginger? So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So today, uh, we're gonna be talking about breeding for temperament. Now, before I did a series on it, we're gonna pretty much go through that where we were talking about each of the individual drives. So we're not gonna so much talk about the individual drives, but we will definitely go over them. But what's up, y'all? Thanks for joining in. We are live, Dog Talk Tuesdays, where we discuss the ways of man and dog. One thing I would like to say for the people as viewers, you are encouraged to comment. For some reason, last time we were doing this, the comments you guys made during the lives, they stuck. Now all of a sudden I'm noticing the comments are disappearing. So I'm trying to go through YouTube to kind of figure that out. But you are encouraged to comment your ideas, any questions, and also conduct your own research to form your own experiences. So let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about breeding for temperament. A lot of people generalize over temperament to make it something that's easy to get to the next thing, color, size, things like that. So we're going to go into specifics and how to deal with the drives of a dog, noticing the drives of a dog, and separating them from each other. One that people get confused a lot is rank drive and dominance drive. So we're going to go into separating the different drives, what it is that makes up temperament, and then how you want to breed for it. Same way that you breed dogs for color, same way you breed dogs for temperament, same way you breed dogs for structure, conformation, same way you breed dogs for temperament. The only difference is temperament takes a longer time to get where you want and then to eventually lock it in. Most of you know, our kennel, that was the first thing we focused on. So we dealt with dogs. Some dogs were picked strictly for temperament. Some dogs were picked for temperament and look. And then we brought that together. But in the breeding process, it was strictly temperament. We're just now getting to a phase where we're coming out, where we can tell we've got temperament locked, the temperament that we want locked in, and moving to, more into structure and things like that. And it looks like my phone's getting ready to die. Let me plug you in. And hold on, y'all. There we go. All right. So today we're going to get into the details of that. One of the reasons I had another topic actually planned, but a lot of people hit me up due to some people have been going back through old videos, noticing the temperament series. Other people heard where I was talking last week about bloodlines and how temperament played a part. And we do need to make sure we look at temperament as it's just another phenotype. The only difference is we learn color when we're little kids. We learn structure as we learn dogs and the look of dogs. And temperament is something that we have to learn to see as humans. But it is something that is seen. It is a genetic trait that is expressed to be seen by the eyes. And then that's how we make our judgment calls from there. The reason why it's important, especially in the bully community and large dogs that are bred for looks, There's way too many attacks on kids, owners, innocent strangers. The UK is real bad with it, and it's gotten slightly. Looks like they've gotten they've gotten all these laws that are focused on what they think will prevent it, but a lot of it comes with the mentality. America doesn't seem to be as bad here, but we all know we've got a lot of breeders that say, "Oh, my dogs have a great temperament." Why do they have a great temperament? They play with my kids. They get along with other dogs. What else? When strangers come over, they're cool. But then at the same time, what do we also hear in the bully community? Dogs being stolen by strangers, people climbing into the yard, coming into the yard, just snatching a dog, taking a dog out the car. There was a video where a lady was walking her bully, and a guy and a female came up, robbed the lady for the dog. No guns, no weapons whatsoever. So there's also that. To me, that's a problem. I have a statement that, or a phrase I always use, which is somewhat extreme, but it keeps my focus balanced, which is a dog that will bite me is just as bad as a dog that won't bite to protect me. And now I'd much prefer the dog that just won't bite me. But to keep myself focused in my breedings, that's how I look at it. A dog that bites me is just as bad as a dog that won't bite to protect me. When I sell a dog too, I've had so far with bullies, I don't think we've had any situations. When I was into breeding the band dogs and crossing them with pit bull, I had two situations, and both of those situations, the dogs were extremely protective, one overly protective. Luckily, the girl had put him through training. So when the guy was able to get loose and she did kind of get control of the dog, get the dog away from the guy, another person jumped in to help. The dog didn't go after the person that was helping. He got loose and he went straight down the street after the same guy. Luckily, she was able to call him back, and then that was it. Another situation, girl had a boyfriend, constantly visit. Both situations were with females. Boyfriend was staying over from time to time. He was cool with the dog cool with him. They got into it one night. The boyfriend put hands on her, dog lit into him. So I would hate to hear those same stories, and the dog that I sold you didn't do anything. So even when we got into bullies, that was a big conversation between my family, my cousin and I, that we wanted dogs that we knew were going to have a protective instinct, and that is all based off of temperament and everything. And we're going to get into it. Um, Another issue that you see with bullies, dogs that stand their ground. They look great barking and growling, they're standing their ground. But for those who are experienced with bullies, you can see that they're skittish. Um, there are also dogs that tend to be dominated by other dogs. So if you get, some people keep their bullies in their backyard, other people take their bullies and they take them out in social environments, dog parks, things like that. And there's dogs that come onto the dog park and dominate their bully. You got this XL, 130, 140 pounds, and then all of a sudden another breed shows up that's a large breed, and it tends to dominate their bully. Their bully tends to be submissive. And a lot of people call that good behavior, but it's not really good behavior. It's just you have a docile dog, and luckily that doesn't get you into any situations where you have to break up fights or things like that. But a lot of times, if your dog stood its ground and was more dominant, there wouldn't be any issues, even with that more dominant dog. And if that takes place, then at least I know my dog stood its ground. And so that's why temperament is a huge thing in dogs, but is also a huge thing that is bypassed extremely in the bully community. For those of you who own working breeds and watch my lives, American bulldogs, band dogs, pit bulls, you don't have to worry about it, because if you're working the dog, the work maintains the temperament. The parents more than likely work. So you don't have to focus as much on temperament outside of just within your home. So, but for those who have dogs that have varying purposes, like the American bullies, a lot of American bulldogs, you start to see cane corsos pop up with multiple purposes. For those type of dogs, you still want a certain temperament attached to the dog, and not just the dog, but also the breed itself. Let's see here. Trench Kennel said, "What's up? OG, finally catching another live. Love your work." Thanks, man. Thanks for tuning in. So we're gonna go ahead and get a little more into the details. What is temperament? Temperament is the personality of the dog. Some would say it's the energy of the dog, but it's not so much the energy of the dog, because energy can be misplaced or correctly placed. Temperament is what misplaces that energy or correctly places that energy. So temperament is the overall personality of the dog. It's the triggers that make a dog respond or engage in certain actions, and it controls how they go about engaging in those actions. The temperament changes from breed to breed, and then within each breed, it changes from dog to dog. So we know the Rottweiler, the Cane Corso, the Presa Canario have a higher level of guard drive than, let's say, the Labrador or the Labradoodle. Okay, so it changes from breed to breed, but within each breed, it changes also from dog to dog. So the breed just gives you a generality of certain temperaments and certain triggers. But then once you get into the breed, you'll start to notice a difference from dog to dog. The easiest way to understand temperament is just breaking it down into two categories, and that's drives and thresholds. Okay, the first one, drives. All dogs have the same drives. All of them, all have the exact same drives. No dog is set to zero on any drive. They all have prey drive, play drive. You go down the list. Every drive that dogs have, all dogs have it. What changes from drive to drive is the threshold that drive is set at genetically in that dog, and then of course environment, and just like nurture versus nature, environment starts to change things. But genetically, all dogs have the same drive. Okay, so we're gonna go through some of those. Again, drive is not energy. That's a lot of people have a dog that's energetic, and the first thing they think, oh, he's high drive. No, that's not energy. One of my best dogs I've ever owned was Kayla. She was a bull lurcher, extremely laid back dog. If you saw her, you would think she just had the best manners, extremely polite. She picked up on things real quick. Didn't run around the house like the other two, and then the other two that were younger kind of learned to, hold on, I got you in a little bit. The other two kind of learned to kind of mimic her, even though they were of higher energy. The reason I say her energy, which was low, had nothing to do with her drive, is because once we went hunting, she was nonstop, high energy, fastest dog, just extremely intense, intelligent. But at home, she was laid back. So drive has nothing to do with energy. Drive has to do with the triggers of a dog and how that dog relates to those triggers. So what are various drives? One, I would say intuitive drive. That is a drive I don't hear a lot about. I kind of made that up on my own. And one of the reasons I did that is I began noticing puppies were very curious. That curiosity gave me a hint also to when they got to about 6 months, a year old, a year and a half, 2 years old, how intelligent that puppy would be. And so when I say intuitive drive, what I'm talking about is just in that puppy, various sounds, various smells. Which pups are very intuitive? Which ones try to satisfy their curiosity, and how far will they go to satisfy that curiosity? If I throw a ball out the room, the puppies don't see me throw it, they just hear it bounce, and they all look around. Some pups are just going to walk to the door. Some pups are going to keep on going until they find it. I call it intuitive drive, and time goes by, you will notice that that drive starts to turn into that dog's. The intuitiveness goes down because they start to figure out things. That's a car. That's the ball bouncing down the hallway. That's the smell of hot dogs. That's the smell of spaghetti. That's the smell of my dog food. The curiosity starts to go away because we keep them in such a controlled environment. They, within 2 years, they start to understand their environment and they have it memorized. So the intuitiveness it goes away, but the intelligence and how they related to what they were once intuitive about keeps on going up and up in how they deal with it. So that is intuitive drive is what I call a temporary drive. It starts off when they're young and it turns into something else as they get older. What's another? Purpose drive. Purpose drive is a dog's desire to do either what it was bred to do or its desire to do what you as the owner wanted to do or what the breeder happened to breed it to do. So I may have a pit bull. We all know they were originally bred for fighting. I, as a breeder, might be breeding them to catch hogs. You might get a pit bull from me and decide all I wanted to do is I wanted to participate in dock diving. It's just going along with the purpose drive. Now, one of the easiest ways to figure out a dog's level of purpose drive is how quickly they'll change from thing to thing. So one thing that I do with pups is I will take a ball out. Once they start to learn fetch and I know they have fun with it, then we'll work on the spring pole. Once they've got fetch down, you go get the ball, you bring it back. Then we'll work on the flirt pole. Then we'll work on the spring pole. I'll also have a leash ready to go just in case we want to walk. So what I'll do is I'll get the dog going playing fetch. All of a sudden, dog goes to bring the ball back, and instead of me taking the ball from him, I grab the flirt pole. Boom, dog drops the ball, jumps right on. Now he's chasing the flirt pole in a circle. Then all of a sudden, I'll put the flirt pole up, bam, and I'll grab the spring pole, bring down the lure for them to bite and hang on. Switch. I just keep switching from one thing to the next. The faster a dog does it. Now, I know that dog's got certain things that are its favorite. It's got certain things that aren't necessarily his favorite. But the dog's ability to switch from one thing to the next gives me a idea of its purpose drive focused on me rather than what it was bred for or what its breed was bred or created for. Another drive, civil drive. Civil drive is a dog's ability, a dog's willingness to focus and also engage or bite without the person being animated, without the person trying to get them to engage. The person is just sitting there. Civil drive will cause that dog to just focus on that person. I don't know you, so therefore I'm focused on you. You're not doing anything wrong. You might be reading a book. All I know is I'm focused on you because I don't know you. Or I was told by my owner to focus on you. Even though you're clearly not doing anything. You're not agitating the dog. You're not doing anything of the kind. That focus comes from civil drive. That person gets up, the dog watches them, and for no reason, if you were to say, sick them, bite them, whatever the attack, whatever the command is, that person doesn't have to agitate the dog. The dog will just, boom, just do it. So the person could be sitting there reading a book or watching the news, and then all of a sudden you say, get that individual. Dog focuses on who, and bam, they'll get it. So as part of civil drive, a lot comes through command, but also a dog with a high civil drive, they're just focused on anybody that they don't know, and they are they will focus on them. They have the courage to let that person know I'm focused on you. And they also have the courage to engage or attack that person if they feel that needs to take place. That is called civil drive. Prey drive, a dog's desire to hunt, catch, kill. That's what prey drive is. Hunt, catch, kill. That's whether it's a rat, a ball. So for instance, a rat, your dog's prey drive, it knows it's alive. Prey drive is going to go through the roof. Fetch, the dog's going to run, chase down the ball. Prey drive reaches its climax as soon as the dog catches the ball, as soon as the dog gets the ball. Now he's going to bring it to you so that he can do the whole prey drive thing over again. A pointer. So let's say you got a pointer and you have a catch dog, a band dog, a American bulldog, pit bull, whatever. You take them bird hunting, what are they going to do? They're going to kill the bird. They're going to try to kill the bird. A pointer's prey drive runs super high all day long, and then all of a sudden it climaxes at the point that it spots the bird and you see a point. Uh, Herding dogs. The reason dogs herd is it's as part of their instinct in their herd in their hunting is they would herd wolves, coyotes. You'll see them all. They do the same thing. If they get across a large group of animals, they will herd them in certain directions. And sometimes you'll see lions do the same thing when you watch TV. But what happens with the prey drive on a herding dog? It stops herding, doesn't go into attack mode. Some will even nip just to get it to go the right direction, get the cow or whatever they're herding to go the right direction. Their herding, their prey drive stops at herding. So they're consistently bred to be dogs that don't take it any further. The pointer is bred to be a dog that once it spots the bird, it just points, smell, sees, and then it pauses. Whereas its true instincts as a dog and a predator should be to smell, to see, chase it down, see if I can catch it. But instead, on the pointer, it freezes, it points, it stops there. And that's why it stops in that stalking prey, because stalking is a part of their prey drive. You also have fight drive. That is a dog's willingness to fight. Many dogs will start a fight, but few will stay in a fight when they're equally matched. The longer they're willing to stay in that fight, the higher the fight drive. Um, Gameness is the highest plateau of the fight drive because that is a dog that is willing to and enjoying fighting, even though that dog is losing. It just enjoys the process. That's the highest level of fight drive. Pack drive. Pack drive is something that we all want as humans. When you have one dog, that dog is a part of your family. You are a part of that dog's pack. When you have two dogs, things start to get a little complicated because they realize they can communicate with each other in ways that you can't communicate, and they start to notice you guys as humans are communicating in ways that we can't communicate. So the pack gets a little division, but still works in harmony. It almost comes um, a what would you call it? It more becomes kind of a relationship between the two, between the two packs, the family and then the pack of dogs. You get three dogs, you're no longer part of their pack. They're still part of your family, but you're no longer part of your pack. They got secrets that they're telling that you have no idea. They're doing it through their eyes, their lips, their tongue. They're communicating in ways you have no idea now, and they're perfecting it. But pack drive all is a dog's desire to be with its family. A dog's desire to, um, at its highest, you'll get anxiety. We all pretty much want low pack drive. That means that the dog is extremely independent. Very huskies tend to be extremely independent dogs. There's a lot of other breeds that are very independent. Jack Russells are another one that can be extremely independent, but you can get them on both sides of the scale. But pack drive is just that drive, that desire to be with the pack and the family. What's another? Dominance drive. Dominance takes place in is a situational type of thing. Some dogs are just dominant when they come across other dogs. They want to um, they want to dominate that dog or dominate the couch or dominate their food bowl or dominate their owner. And how high that dominance drive is, whatever threshold that drive is set at, is how dominant that dog will be on it, how much it will express that trait. Rank drive has nothing to do with food, toys, my owner, has nothing to do with what I consider my. Rank drive is just when I'm around other dogs, I want to be top dog. Some dogs can have a rank drive so high that it interrupts the family dynamic, that they don't respect children. They only respect the dad or the mom. Their rank drive, they want to be on the next tier when it comes to the family and everything they're relating to. So I always aim for, I like a medium dominance drive and I want a low rank drive. And we'll get into the thresholds in a second. Another drive, guard drive. Guard drive is your dog's even protection drive. So guard drive is your dog's willingness to guard what it considers your home, your family, your property. Um, some of you have seen videos where you see me do perimeter protection work with the dogs, giving them an understanding of this is our area, and how they respond to those trying to intrude into that area. Guard and protection are two different things. Protection is more about you as an individual with the dog. Guard is, even though the dog is guarding you when it's protecting, it's more general to the dog's surroundings. Your guard your car, guard your home, guard your property, guard your family. A lot of times we think of a dog guarding us as a family, but really they're just guarding their home and you happen to be in it. Defense drive. This is another drive. This is a dog's willingness to push back something and how far a dog will go to push back whatever it feels that thing is. Some dogs will just stand their ground. Some dogs will bark and run. So, and as they're barking, basically just alarming their owners or whoever might be standing the close. Sometimes they're just trying to alarm other dogs that they know have a stronger defense drive. Some dogs have a defense drive that if they know this person's an intruder there or is invading our area, we're going to go after him before he even gets to our area. So those are the different drives. And each of those drives, as you heard me relating to each of them, giving us a situation for each of them, that's the thresholds. The threshold changes is the difference from breed to breed and dog to dog, because all dogs, again, have the same drives. None of them are at zero. Okay. So you may have a dog that doesn't like to chase the ball and you say, okay, he's got a low prey drive. That's fine, but he's still got prey drive. There is no such thing as a dog having zero prey drive. When you're looking at thresholds, you're looking at low. I break them into 5 categories, or 5 levels, I should say. Low, low to medium, medium, medium to high, and then high. So if we're talking about play drive, a dog's desire to play, how long it will play, how intense it is when it plays. If I got a dog that has a high play drive, which is also a great technique in a dog or a great trait in a dog to use in training so that you don't have to use treats necessarily. You can just bring that dog's toy when it does what you prefer. Then you bring that toy out, you give it a couple of seconds with that toy, tell them let go, boom, and you get back to the training. If a dog's got a high prey drive or play drive, I should say, then you've got medium to high, then you've got medium, you've got low to medium, and then you've got low. And you only are going to know these things by observing the dog and testing the dog. You're basically going to be coming up with creative ways to simulate different things and then see how the dog responds to it. So when it comes to the thresholds, remember, temperament is broken down into various drives. We named a bunch of them. And then each of those drives is broken down into different thresholds. One with the American Bully, for instance. We know the American Bully is supposed to, let's go by the ABKC breed standard. Dog is supposed to get along with strangers. So you're going to want a low civil drive. You're going to want it as close to zero as you possibly can to fit that breed standard. Dog is not supposed to be any human or dog aggressive. There shouldn't be any dog aggressive. And let's make it more complicated. You want to go into the show ring. You know you're gonna have a dog that you want to have a low rank drive. You want there to be a little dominance, like I explained last week. You want him to look confident, but not enough to where he's gonna engage with his dominance. He should be able to get along with other dogs. If I'm breeding a dog for hunting, then of course I want a high prey drive, a high play drive, which gives me the ability to exercise the dog. I also want a high prey drive, which is that dog I know he's gonna hunt. So when you're looking at lows, and so you want to gauge all these different drives, you as a breeder, you as an owner want to be able to understand the various drives that make up a dog. So when you have issues, you can know what the issue is. And you can, even if you don't know how to fix it, you can speak to someone and you can give them a lot of, you can give them a better idea of what it is you're doing. A lot of times when I do phone consultations, people will call me and they'll say, you know, first thing, some of you have done phone consultations with me, and I'll tell them, hey, you know, when you first call me, you're going to give me an idea of what you're dealing with. And sometimes we can fix the problem right then and there first call. Sometimes you're going to give me an idea of what you're dealing with, and I'm going to need you to have a camera so I can see it take place. But a lot of times I get people, they just say, my dog's just got such a high drive. Okay, which drive are you talking about? Well, you know, he's just hyper. Da, da. Okay, well, that's not drive. So then what we need to figure out is energy level. That's what we need to figure out. Matter of fact, we need to figure out where he can place, where how we can start using his drives to you and your dog's advantage so that you get a better behavior from the dog. But coming up with creative ways to simulate different scenarios and situations is one of the best things to start detecting drive. When I start off with puppies, one of my favorite things to do is I will wait till they finish eating. That way I know they're full and they're lazy. And then I'll make a sound in another area that they won't see, but I'll be watching them. And I want to see who's willing to get up off a full stomach and see what's going on. That's that intuitive drive. I'll get them used to the sound of a bouncing ball, have them playing in one room, and then when they're not paying attention to me, throw the ball in the other room. They know that sound is the ball, but are they gonna, who's gonna go look for that ball? Those are different things. Prey drive, just how intensely does that dog go after whatever it is they're going after? How long will they do it back and forth? How much do they enjoy doing it? How intense do they get about it? The beautiful thing about breaking drives into thresholds and breaking those thresholds into 5 categories is, let's say you are still learning. And to you, and we're going to get into breeding for drives also, but for you, you say, let's say you've got a dog, you're not experienced, and you say, this dog has a high, or let's start with medium to high. This dog has, in my judgment, a medium to high prey drive. Okay. And then you say, I want to bring that down. So I'm going to breed it to this dog over there that has a low to medium prey drive. Then as you get to learn dogs, you all of a sudden realize, you know what? That wasn't really medium to high. It was actually medium. Guess what? It doesn't affect your breeding that you miscalculated it, because as you got to learn, because you also said, and that dog that I bred it to had a low to medium prey drive. So now that I know more, I realize this dog's not medium to high, it's actually medium. And this dog's not low to medium, it's actually low. So it just changes. It basically, as you understand it and you learn, it's not one of those things that if you hadn't learned it before, you made a miscalculation in your breeding. Your calculation in your breeding is still going to be the same. It's just you're going to put it at a different category now, but you're still going to get the same effect that you want out of that breeding. So when it comes to breeding for your various drives, the first thing that you're going to come up with different ways to, and actually let's go over some of them and how you would test for them. Intuitive drive, gave you the ideas on that. Sparking the curiosity of the dog and how far will that pup go to satisfy that curiosity, to figure out the answer. Purpose drive, one of the things, like I said earlier, I do with purpose drive is I switch. If a dog has a low purpose drive, when I go from fetch to the spring pull, he's going to kind of hesitate, especially if fetch is his favorite. He's going to look at you like, come on, let's do the ball. Let's throw the ball. Why are we doing that? I want to do the ball. Then after a while, it realizes you're not going to do the ball. And then it's like, okay, let me go to the spring pole because that's where he's standing. A dog with a high purpose drive is going to switch. Boom, boom, boom. No problem. It will be playing sometimes with one thing and starting to anticipate he's about to switch to something else. It's cool with doing whatever. You can get it super hyped up, and then all of a sudden you grab the collar, and he's like, "Okay, we're going for a walk." Whatever it is you want to do, it wants to do. That's your how you can test that drive. Switch from one thing to the next and see how well that dog switches. Civil drive, you'll know that that's something that has to be tested, of course, and was safely. Um, but you can read low civil drive and medium to or low civil drive and low to medium civil drive just by watching your dog how it pays attention or doesn't pay attention to things. But if you as you start to learn more about each drive, you want to come up with creative ways to test those drives. Some drives you don't want to test on a puppy because you don't want to break its will, you don't want to scare it. One of the things I do, speaking of that, I had somebody call me the other day, and they just had a litter, probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they were asking what different things, and they said they know beating on a pot is one of the things that they should do just to get the puppies used to loud sounds. So I explained to them, I know that's popular, but just like children, you don't want to scare your children. You know, I always trip off these videos I see on the internet where people are scaring their kids to make a funny video. But you've just now created that height of that fear has now become a possibility for your child now that you've done that. So what are you doing, boy? Um, now that you've done that. So you want to avoid situations of your children, of your puppies being scared, because sooner or later the world's going to do it on its own. But hopefully you have groomed your child to be confident. Hopefully you have groomed your pup to be confident and make the right decisions, whereas somebody else who's running around scaring their kid and their kids just gets used to jumping and screaming and all and crying and all kinds of stuff, that kid's going to have the same reactions. Now that you open that door for their emotions, that child's going to have that same reaction as they get older. Just as they get older, they won't scream, but they're not going to be that brave child that you once wanted because you open that door for those emotions. Hopefully the child learns and gets in enough situations where it realizes, okay, even though dad jumped out the closet on me yesterday with the clown costume on, even though he did that 10 years ago, now at 15, I've been through enough where I'm a little braver than I once was. But if the kid doesn't go through the situations that he needs to make him, or he or she needs to make him brave, they will be that kid that you were scaring with the clown costume. Open the door for emotions that you don't want, because those emotions are gonna come later, but you want stability and balance before those emotions hit. So with a pup, instead of beating on a pot, one, the best thing to do, get the pups while they're eating. When they're eating, they're focused on their position, keeping the other pups off, and they're focused on their food. At that point, start hitting the pot. Quiet, louder, get louder, get louder, get louder, get louder, get louder. Slowly but surely get louder and louder. And in that way, you get the pups more accustomed to a sound without actually startling them or scaring them. And then what you'll notice at that point is, well, even when they're not eating, you can hit that pot and nobody's startled, everybody's cool, because you gave them something else to focus on, which was their positioning around the food, and then also the food itself while they were hearing that sound. That also brings up an intuitive drive. Some pups are going to be sitting there, they're going to hear that first light little sound, and they're going to look up and then be, oh, snap, let me get back to my food before somebody eats it. Some pups, they're not even going to look up because they're just into that food. But when you start testing dogs with loud sounds and pups to get them used to loud sounds and things like that, do it while they're eating. So that way you don't bring out fear. You just get them used to the sound. A lot of people are making them fear something and then trying to get them to get over the fear. Let's leave fear out of it. Let them eat and start while they're eating is the best way to do it. For intuitiveness in pups, can't they be still? Can't they be still be confident and was the weird one of the litter. I watched them more because that'd be the one you let go on accident. Yeah, very true. Very true. Now, let me read that again. For intuitiveness in pubs, can't they still be the confident? And yes, they're gonna be confident. So when it comes to the 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 further they're willing to go to satisfy that curiosity, what they heard, find out what it is, where it is, those are going to be your more confident pups. Now, you also have, so for instance, let's say with pack drive, pay attention to your litter of pups. Which ones love to play? They tend to have a higher pack drive and have a higher play drive. You're also going to have pups that are a little more reserved, kind of like to be on their own, get a little tired of everybody. Those tend to be your best pups for protection. Not they don't tend to be the best ones for hunting, but for protection, those tend to be the best pups, especially if they're offish away from the rest of the litter, but they still will play with the litter and they still like to engage with you. So they're going to have a lower pack drive. They're going to have less desire to have company. They're going to be a little more independent. Luckily, they're pack animals, so no matter what, there's still going to be a large degree of pack drive there. But you definitely want to pay attention to that. When it comes to breeding for temperament, we kind of got into it a little bit, but one thing you want to remember, and we always push, the X and the Y chromosome factor. The fact that the mother dominates the breed, that dominates the litter, not only in genetics, but also in energy. They get a lot from her energy when they're in her stomach, her heart rate, what scares her, what angers her. They get a lot from that. Then once they get to, she starts feeding them. They get a lot from her energy when she's playing with them. And then they start to get from each other's energy right around 4 or 5 weeks old as you separate them. So you want to, but when we're just looking at genetics, the genetic factor, the part that has no environment and environment hasn't shaped at all, just strictly genetics. Remember, X chromosome, two X's is what makes a female. An X and a Y is what makes a male. Why are there balloons going through the screen? An X and a Y is what makes a male. The X chromosome, the easiest way to look at it is it's got 4 tails going off of it. The Y chromosome has 3 tails going off of it. So who has more genetic information? Why does that keep going off? The X chromosome. Okay. So when you have females, cancel. All right. So when you have females, they've got 2 X chromosomes, one coming from mom, one coming from dad. Both those X chromosomes have a lot of genetic information on it. Temperament is part of that genetic information. Those drives that make up temperament and the thresholds that make up those drives, those are part of that genetic information on both of those X chromosomes of a female. And the male and the female are going to battle it out for who's going to dominate this female, and then this female, and then this female, and then this female. Now, whatever they have in common, that's not going to be a battle. But where they are opposites, it's going to be a battle of who dominates that. When it comes to your male pups, and when it comes to temperament, remember the male pup now has an X chromosome, and then they get from mom, and then it gets a Y chromosome from dad. Remember, the Y chromosome, it's only got 3 tails coming off of it. So therefore, there's less genetic information. And with that Y chromosome, it's focused on making that male a male. As I always say, males, we are a deformity in nature, a necessary deformity, but we are a deformity. Nature naturally makes females. So when you get the male, when you get your male offspring, not only does that Y, not only is he's getting mom's X chromosome, which has all kinds of genetic information coming from her, temperament being one of them, and then he gets this Y chromosome. And that Y chromosome has a lot of genetic information, but not as much as that X. Plus, of the genetic information that Y chromosome does have, A lot of that information has nothing to do with dad. It strictly just has to do with making that male a male. So now there's even less space for genetic information, which is why if you have 6 male pups in the litter, majority of them are going to take after mom. Let's say you only have 3 pups in the litter. There's a great chance all of them are going to take after mom. The lower the number of males in the litter, the higher the chance of them taking after mom. The higher the number of male pups in the litter, the higher the chance of dad possibly getting his genetics in there where you'll see it, notice it, it expresses themselves. With the females, it's a 50-50 battle between mom and dad. So when you're looking at temperament and you're aiming for a certain temperament for your yard, that's something you really need to pay attention to. The reserved ones I see consistently in my bloodline. There you go. And that's when you're especially breeding band dogs, or band dogs is kind of a battle, because if you get some people who want band dogs from you and they want them for protection. You get other people, they want it for hunting, hog catching, coyotes, bobcats. So, and then some people want it to be just one dog. Some people want 2 or 3 of them. Band dogs become tricky because, like you said, yours tend to be reserved. Well, in band dogs, you kind of want a little bit of both so that you can satisfy both types of customers. The customer that wants protection, they want reserved, like what you're producing. Customer that wants the dog for hunting, catching hogs or whatever, they more want a dog that does get along with the pack and likes to be with the pack. That way you don't have to worry about that dog. That was one of the issues I used to have with Floyd, is he could only hunt with Kayla and Fox. Any other dogs, once we got hold of whatever he got hold of, he's going after all dogs except for Kayla and Fox. That was one of the issues. He got to the point where we could only hunt with just him and the 2 dog, the bull lurcher and our Jack Russell. Any other dogs, he was going after them. So you want a balance of that. But if you're strictly breeding for protection, then you're going to spot those pups, and that's the beautiful thing about it. How you're saying your pups are reserved. That means you don't even have to wait. You know right off the bat, boom, he came out just like I like him. Boom, she came out just like I like him. You're already seeing that reservation between them and your next door neighbor's litter that they just had of German Shepherds or Labradors. You can tell the difference in your pups off jump by the time they're 4 or 5 weeks old. So depending on what you're breeding for, that's a great thing. So always think about that X and Y chromosome. Sometimes when you first start breeding, you get your male, you get your female, you need to carry those traits. The best opportunity to carry those traits is going to be through the female offspring. So that means you're going to need to purchase another male from somewhere else, or stud her to a male from somewhere else. If you keep the male offspring, which we've done a couple times, but if you keep the male offspring, you know that his chances of carrying what you want, his chance of passing the traits you want to pass, they're going to be more than likely in his female offspring, not in his male. So you're going to have to, it's going to more than likely. So when you're dealing with temperament, especially, so like for me, I want a dog that is going to protect the family. I want a dog that is somewhat dominant when it comes across other dogs. You don't need to fight them, but you're dominant. You're willing to stand your position. Cardi Bull, we came from California, moved here to where we were. I don't know how big that yard was. I forget. I have to ask my wife. But it was just a regular Cali yard. And all of a sudden we moved to Arkansas and we've got 2 acres. Well, it took her I'd say probably about a week to realize, especially because the back half acre was just like trees and weeds growing. They're like, grass was like 6 feet high. So it took her a while to, okay, there we go. It took her a while, probably about a week. One, realized, okay, we're about to live here. And 2, are we but this is ours. And that grass, and we started walking over that area. We cut down those trees, flatten that whole air, that whole old hunting house. She fully gets it. The dogs in the kennels, they get it. If you drive past, there's a highway right outside the front of the uh, of the hunting house. But when you drive past there, you should be driving probably about 55. I think the speed limit is going on that highway, about 55 miles an hour. If you're at that speed limit, dogs don't pay attention. If you slow down on that highway because you're getting ready to turn down our street, they start barking right off the bat. Why are you slowing down? Why aren't you flying past just like the rest of the dogs? So when you want to carry those traits, you got to think about, am I getting it from a female or am I getting it from a male? So let's say there's a trait that I want from Cardi Bull. She's a female. I have a better chance of getting that trait in my males. If there's a trait I want from my males, I have a better chance of getting that trait. Well, female, she's a female, so I have a 50 chance of getting it in my female offspring, but I have a, I'd say 60 to 70% chance of getting that trait in my male offspring. When it comes to males, you got a 50-50 chance of getting their traits in your female offspring. When it comes to, but you got probably about a 30 to 40% chance of getting it in your male offspring, especially if all dogs are scatterbred. Inbreeding increases and line breeding increases your chances, and we discussed that last week when we spoke about bloodlines. So because temperament can be so complicated, I can say I like this trait in this dog, and it's in my mind it's their dominance drive. But I haven't put that dog in any situations to where I can say, you know what, it wasn't really dominance drive, it was rank drive. Temperament, that's why temperament can be tricky. Purpose drive, play drive, prey drive can all be can look three totally different things, but they can look the same if you don't put the dog in enough situations to tell the difference. So those are what that's why you want to come up with as many creative simulations as you can when it comes to each drive. When you pick a drive and then say, what are the ways I can test this drive? And again, you know, you can always call me, hit me up through Facebook or Instagram, and I don't mind helping you through those things when you have a litter and you're trying to get that figured out. But now we want to breed for it. So let's say let's go with the American Bully due to it being. Are you guys seeing me? For some reason, I'm not showing on. All right, where is? All right, there we go. All right, so we know the average person wants a medium to let's say what driver we pick. What are we breeding? What are we breeding? Let's say we're breeding. Let's stick with American Bullies. Okay. When it comes to the American Bully, I decide I want a dog that is protective. But the first dog I got is friendly with any and everybody. Take it to the dog park. It gets along with everybody. Everybody loves it. One guy didn't thought my dog was too friendly, so he stomped his foot at my dog, and my dog just kind of, hurt and walked away. Just overly didn't take a stance, didn't look at the guy funny, just turned, walked away. Um, I'm starting to think dog hits about a year, 2 years. I'm starting to wish my dog was a little protective because let's say last night we heard something outside the house. And when it jumped up barking, it was running towards me and my wife. Let's say I didn't like that and I want to change that. Then I know that the next dog I breed to, the pack drive is fine, the play drive is fine. But I do know now I need a little more guard drive, maybe even a little more dominant sprinkled in there. So I find a breeder, and let's say this was my, what to make it more difficult. Let's say this was my male. So I find a breeder, and I ask, are your dogs protective? Oh, yeah. Well, how do you know? That's always got to be your question. Why do you say that? How do you know? What have you been through with your dog that I plan on getting a pup from that makes you think that the dog is protective? Have there been any scenarios? Like, for instance, no, Aziz has been in a situation. Who here has never been in a situation? Well, Aziz son, Saint. Saint's just a year old. Saint's never been in a situation to where he's had to protect the house, the home, nothing like that. So if I tell you all my dogs are protective, why? And let's say Saint's my dog, and you want to get a dog from me off of Saint. How do you know he's protective? Because he's always around my kids, he's always watching. Well, Saint does that, but how do you know he's protective? When has he ever been in a situation where he's tried to engage? Okay. Those are the type of questions you wanna ask the breeder. So now, remember, I've got, what did I say? I said we have a male. So yeah, we've got a male, and we feel that he's just totally unprotected. We don't like that. So we go to the breeder, and we want to get a female off of the breeder. So you want to know, okay, female, mom and dad protective? Because she's more than likely going to slightly take off. She's going to more than likely going to take after one or the other. Breeder says, yeah, mom and dad are protective. How do you know? He gives you a good answer. You say, okay, I'm going to get a female off of you to breed to my male. And you get that female. She turns a year and a half. You start putting her in little situations to see how alert she is, how protective she is. Now, your male is, when it comes to guarding, those protection, dominance, those types of drives, you already know he's set low. Take your female to the dog park, and she's running around having a good time. But when a dog comes across the yard that's kind of dominant, she notices it. Something about her becomes curious to it. When a dog does try to dominate her and she don't want it to take place, she's quick to snap and let them know. She's quick to posture out and let them know, don't do that again. This is what you're looking for. When the pizza man shows up to the house, she doesn't bark and run to you like the male did. She goes running to the door, barking and growling. She's looking out the window. She's willing to be seen in guard mode. Some dogs don't want to be seen in guard mode. She's willing to be seen in guard mode. She's not running to you for protection. She's showing everything that you want. So you say, okay, he's at a low protection drive, a low guard drive, extremely low civil drive, of course. So this female, I like what she's doing. She's alarming the house. She takes a stance. She hasn't attacked anything. I'm gonna say she's a medium level guard drive or protection drive or defense drive. I'm gonna give her a medium. So I'm gonna breed her to him. Here's the thing you gotta pay attention to. You will get in ability and look. Let's go to look first. Dogs broken down to three things: temperament, ability, look. Look, you're going to get traits from the female, traits from the male. You're not going to get, so if the female has 5 ears or 6 ears, and the male has 4 ears, you're not going to get five. You know what I'm saying? You're either going to get six or you're going to get four. That tends to be how things work physically in dogs. If the female has two tails and the male don't have a tail at all, you're not going to breed them and all of a sudden get one tail, which is what you were looking for. You're going to get some pups with zero tails, some pups with two tails. That's how things work physically. Now, you may get, let's break it down into parts. You may get the toes of the female, the pasterns of the male, the forearm of the female. You can get combinations like that, but each little thing is going to take after one or the other. When it comes to temperament and drives and the thresholds of those drives, you can sometimes get somewhat of a balance from the two. And that's where temperament differs from ability is the same thing, but that's where temperament ability differ from physical structure and look. So when you breed for temperament and one dog is at a low threshold, specific drive, the other dog is at a medium threshold and a specific drive. Breeding them together, you'll get some pups that are medium to low, whatever that drive is. But the majority of the pups are either going to be medium or they're going to be low. So you need to make sure that you're picking the correct one. But you'll get, so if you get, I would say if you, let's say you had a litter of 10, 6 of them are going to take after mom and dad on that drive, on that specific drive. They might take after dad's play drive, but mom's prey drive. Dad's defense drive, but mom's civil drive. Each drive is different, just like each part of the dog is different. So, and that's what makes up their personality. But on this specific drive that we're breeding for, that we want to change or that we want to manipulate, just remember that the majority of the pups are going to take after mom or dad. You will get a few though, balance of the two, because you're still dealing with a dog's triggers to its outside environment. You're dealing with that dog's intelligence level. Those are individual things, individual circumstances, and in those in that individuality and that individual environment, you can get a balance of the two. Still going to be more one than the other, but you can create a balance. So you want to think of those things when we are breeding for temperament. The most important things when it comes to temperament in all breeds, you want a medium, a medium to high, a medium to high medium play drive. The dog sometimes is going to quit when your kids want to play, just wants to sit there. It doesn't interact as much. Is waiting for you to do its favorite thing rather than just be engaged. So you want a medium to high, not necessarily high, because high is you got to learn how to control that dog and shut it off. But you want a medium to high play drive. Purpose drive. You want, and we talked about how to simulate and test that. You want a dog, again, medium to high. If you're looking for a dog that is going to protect the home, you want if I've got alarm systems and guns and all that stuff, I don't necessarily need a medium civil drive, but I still want a dog that's willing to engage. So now I'm looking for a lower civil drive. But overall, you want a dog that's going to have a medium to high defense drive. You want a dog that is confident. Confidence comes with a little bit of dominance. Dominance you want at medium. You don't want it to get too high. Even low to medium is good, because you just want a dog that, you don't want a dog that feels it has to dominate its toy, dominate its food bowl. You should be able to, you can use environment to curb that, of course, and training to curb that. But you want that dog to kind of be naturally what you want. Most of you, I've said before, even though I train other people's dogs, I don't train the dogs we keep at home. I will do simulation exercises with them. But other than that, I want them to operate, the dogs that I keep at home and the dogs that I breed, I want to know them for who they naturally are. So even, for instance, when I first take pups, if I decide to keep a pup, when I first take them out on leash, there's ways that I know to get that dog to walk on leash a lot faster. But what I will tend to do is just kind of let them do their thing so that they pick up, okay, I can run this way, but I can't go too far. Run this way, can't go too far. I can run ahead, can't go too far. I can even try running back, and I can't run too far. If a dog that I'm training tried to go backwards, I would stop right in my tracks. Calm down, and then we move forward. Dog I keep at home, I'm just going to keep walking if you try to run back. I'm not going to correct you at all. I want to see you learn off the process and the pattern that we're doing. You know, this is the third day we've done this. I want to see how fast you learn just to walk accordingly. I don't ever need my dog to walk on my side. That looks great in public, and there are some dogs that I'll teach that because those are dogs I plan on having in public a lot with me. Aziz is one of them. But for the most part, King was another one. For the most part, I allow my dogs to pull, but I will train them one thing on leash, and that's slow down. And that means stop pulling. That means I need to see some slack in this leash. Every now and then I'll kind of wiggle it and say, okay, and that lets them know they can start pulling again. But I like the exercise that they get from, and that wind is loud. I like the exercise that they get from pulling. But that's pretty much with that. When it comes to temperament, again, you want balance. Um, let's say, oh, last but not least, let's say you have a dog that has, you want a medium, we'll stick with play drive. You want a medium play drive or medium guard drive. You like what you see. You like what you see in the other dog. You're getting ready to do a breeding. Sometimes you could breed what you call medium to each other, two mediums, and all of a sudden you get something a little lower. So I always like this dog at medium. I tend to want to breed it to a medium to high. Not a high, but a medium to high. Breed medium to high. And you usually get what you want without ever going lower. So that's another thing to think about. So whichever drive you're looking at, whichever drive you're focused on, if it's a drive that you like exactly how the dog is set, you like exactly how this dog is set, you might not want to breed to necessarily this dog to get that temperament, but one that's because she's a medium, he's a medium. You want to take her to a medium to high. Not high, but medium to high. And that way you get medium and medium to high rather than low to medium. You shouldn't get low at all. You shouldn't get high at all, but you at least don't get low to medium because it can kind of fluctuate from dog to dog. And then also, even though that dog might be set to a certain threshold, let's say medium, it gets in certain environments. This breed, the person you sell it to, doesn't socialize it correctly, and next thing you know, or startles it too much, or whatever it may be. You want there to be a slight threshold to give it room to fall into what you consider perfect. That way it can handle its environment and be who it is. So always go a little higher. Now, let's say there's a drive that you rank drive. This dog's got, I'd say, a medium rank drive. I do know the situations where it's around other dogs and it likes to be top dog. Doesn't get too pushy about it, but it tries to influence it. And I'm cool with that. I definitely don't want to bring that dog rank driven with a medium rank drive to another dog of medium rank drive because you might get medium to high rank drive. So on that type of drive, I might go a little lower, low to medium. You get what I'm saying? So that way, if anything, we're bringing it down or keeping it the same, but we're not increasing it. Sometimes breeding the same level medium, two mediums together can sometimes bring it up. So that's something to always think about and pick and choose the drives and what you're breeding for when you get to it. Eventually, that makes it easier for them to lock in. Someone did say one of the things they wanted to discuss was conditioning. And putting muscle on a dog. So we'll kind of do that real quick, and we'll end up having a live more focused on that. But for right now, we're going to do that. We'll keep that kind of quick. Major rule when it comes to conditioning is remember that when your dog starts to pant, that's when exercise begins. Okay. When your dog starts to drool, that's when conditioning begins. Because now the dog is panting to cool itself off, but it's still going. Then it starts to drool. Now the drool helps cool off the outside, neck, chest of the body, front legs, all that stuff. It's going to be a clear liquid. When that clear liquid starts to turn to foam, when you start to see bubbles in it, that's time to stop and allow the dog to recover. Remember that rule so that you don't overdo your dog. The more and more the dog gets in shape, the longer to go panting without drooling. The better it gets in shape. Once it does start to drool, the longer it will go drooling without the drool turning to foam. That foam is just because there's not enough fluid in the body. It's starting to overheat. So the minute it starts to turn to foam, that's when you want to stop and allow the dog to recover. And like I said, the more the dog is in shape, the further it can go panting, the further it can go drooling, and still maintaining a clear liquid. My favorite is the flirt pole. Some of you guys have seen on IG where I'm working the dogs. We have one part of it where it's a little mound that they run up, and then the other side of me. So if I'm facing this direction, to this side of me is a dirt mound that they run up, and on this side of me is a probably about, well, I can make it higher, but it's just a little jump that they jump over, or a hurdle, I guess you can call it, that they jump over. And the correct way nowadays, we see a lot of people working the flirt pole, flipping it around, making the dog go all crazy. The best way, the proper way to work a flirt pole, the flirt pole is just a poor man's catnip, or ginny, like you would use for a horse. So all it is you starting to see people. The reason you see people with 5-foot flirt poles is because it's easier to handle and whip around. When the flirt pole was originally created to work a dog and condition a dog, it was a longer pole. I use a 10-foot pole with a lure at the end, and I don't whip it around. I go in circles, complete circles. Okay. This one causes the dog to be further out from you and think a little more independently. And two, causes the dog good, cause the dog to actually run in complete circles rather than whipping it around. Whipping it around is good for muscle, but it's also good for causing injuries. So I prefer to just do a complete circle. I'll do 5 clockwise, and then I'll do 5 counterclockwise. Here's where the muscle comes in. If my dog is right-footed, meaning that when you watch your dog get up, the first foot it uses is his right foot. My dog is right-footed. When I go clockwise, it will be willing to run in a full, complete circle because it's more comfortable with that right foot on the inside. If I go counterclockwise, all of a sudden, he's going to want to cut things off because he's not going to be as comfortable running with that left foot on the inside. So he's going to try to cut it off. And that's where you'll get more angles. The flirt pole is simulation. Also, when you're working a flirt pole, keep it at head height as you're doing it. If you notice the dog start to lose a little drive, get a little slower, let it touch the ground. Now to get them going again and pick up their energy. I like to start the flirt pole with a wiffle ball, a regular little plastic ball with the little holes through it. I started off with that because it's boring and it's easier to keep away from the dog when it's got the majority of its energy. Once I see the dog kind of tire out from that, I'll take that off. That's when I switch it to their favorite toy, which is usually something that they know they can actually bite and chew on that's soft. And that gets them going again. And like I said, keep it at head height so that the dog is running up and keeping its muscles up high. I got you. Just a sec. It's keeping his muscles up high. And then that by keeping it at head height, when you see the dog losing energy, that gives you the ability to go ahead and let it drop on the ground and drag. And as soon as the dog gets, as soon as they see it on the ground, they're going to get back into it. And that's when you lift it up again. And then once I finish that, I'll take that lure off and then I'll work the flirt pole. And this is where purpose drive comes in again. Dog with a high prey drive, low purpose drive, when you take the lure off that pole and spin that pole, he's going to look at you like there's nothing for me to chase. Dog with a high purpose drive, though, is going to say, okay, you're kind of weird for spinning around with the flirt pole and there's nothing on it for me to chase, but I get what you want me to do, and they're going to chase that flirt pole. And when you spin the next direction, they're going to chase it that opposite direction. That is one of the best ways to challenge a dog's purpose drive. A dog with a medium, what I would say medium high to high level purpose drive will chase the flirt pole even when there's nothing on it. So the dog with a medium purpose drive is gonna look at you like, go attach my toy to that string so I get something to actually go after. So that's something to think about. But the flirt pole, it will build the dog. You're running, so it's gonna build chest, legs, all the things like that. Another conditioning technique, and the flirt pole is a simulation of chasing, just like fetch. Fetch is another great way. The only thing with fetch is be creative. If you can throw the ball, get the dog going a couple times, throwing it straight out. Then after that, throw the ball straight in the air. Bounce the ball straight off the ground. If you got a wall right here, bounce the ball off of that wall. If you got a tree over there, bounce the ball off of that tree. Never let your dog get your dog to the point where it doesn't know what you're about to do. And this keeps the dog's mind running, and it keeps the dog alert, keeps the dog thinking, brings more fun to it. And the bouncing it off of things causes the dog to work different muscles and its agility. The spring pull. The spring pull, when you get a dog that is, I would say 70 pounds, you can even push to 80 pounds and under, depending on their build, you can let them hang from the spring pull. Once they hit that 90, 100, 110, 120 pounds, you want their feet to be, their back legs to be on the ground. The spring pull is simulation for taking down large prey. That's all it is. Flirt pull, fetch, simulation for taking down small prey. Flirt pull, simulation for taking down prey that's about the same size as the dog because you want to run it at head height. And then the spring pull, which is them actually grabbing onto something and hanging from it and shaking it and pulling, that is simulation for taking down large prey. That is why dogs love to do the spring pull. For your larger built, heavier bone dogs, let them keep 2 feet on the ground. This builds up the back hips, builds up the neck, builds up the jaw muscles, chest. So these are all good ways of conditioning. Walking, great way to condition your dog, especially if you got inclines. When you hit, we got one strip here where it kind of goes up, down. So level ground, you're going to walk at a steady pace. When you start to go uphill, walk uphill fast. You start to go downhill, walk downhill slow. Allow your dog to pull. If you are against pulling, that means hopefully you have trained your dog not to pull. Now that you've trained your dog not to pull on a command, when you notice it pulling and you're okay with it, give it a command for that. It can be go, it could be yay, it could be whatever you want. Give your dog a command to let it know it's okay to pull. And in that way, when the dog is pulling uphill, I'm going to walk faster with you. When we're going downhill, I'm going to walk slower with you. Going uphill, walking fast is really going to build the forms of the dog, the pasterns of the dog, and it's also going to, of course, build the hips of the dog. Going downhill slow, the dog pulling you, creates a lot of build in the chest and the shoulders of the dog. So remember, keep a steady pace, but when you go uphill, go faster. When you go downhill, slow it down. Swimming is another great form of conditioning. What else is there? That's pretty much what I like to focus on. Let's see if you guys have any more questions or anything in here. Let's see. CPT Bullies, what's up, man? Thanks for joining in. Line. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Let me scroll up, see if I've missed anything. Okay, it's working again. Okay. So, let's see. Trench said, I have a guard dog bloodline, 5 generations, also have it. But I let 3 go and 5 generations learn to exactly. Yeah, we all learn our lessons from that. You know, you start to I don't think we ever perfect the keeper. I think we get better at it. I don't think we ever really perfect it. In 6 years, I've only produced 4 males, 2 bloodlines, 1 5 generations, and my second line 2 generations. Both produce she-males, and not many males, but temperament and intelligence and confident. There you go. Let's see. Is line breeding good for grandma to grandson? Best typically is granddaughter to grandfather, but worst is typically son to mom. Grandson to grandma, I think is a frozen on here. Grandson to grandma, I think breeding. She's still distant enough where you're not getting the overwhelmingly amount of her traits. There's still the mix in there because he's the grandson. So I think grandson to grandma is not a bad breeding. Not, I would say, if they both have the traits you want, decent breeding. Um, I would say you're probably aiming at keeping a male off of that. Now, if you're going granddaughter to grandfather, that tends to be one of people's favorite breedings. But grandma, son, yes, it is a good breeding. Let's see here. Better take notes, rule free game. Great to see you back, bro. Thanks again, man. Let's see here. Joining late, but here, that's all that matters. What's up, Enzarata? Haven't seen you in a minute. But so I think that is about it. Hold on. Oh snap, I'm late. But sure. What's up, heroes? So I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna go ahead and end this live. Just remember, mind follows body, body follows mind. So do what's best for your dog mentally and physically. And breeders, especially breeders, remember, form follows function, function follows purpose, purpose follows the breeder. So don't just breed to better the breed. Use that breed to make a better dog. And I'm out. See you guys, and thanks for tuning in.